No, Navin, from my end.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's discuss about the other options on NFS export policy. Okay, so in last class we discussed about the options available in rules, like what are the things we can do in rules command, like adding the another server IP address, creating a new rule, deleting the existing rule, modifying the existing rule, removing an IP address from the rule, changing the index. Those are all things we discussed in the last session along with NFS. Okay, so let's ignore access cache and cache. Okay, we'll talk about them later. Next thing is check access. For example, you have created a volume and you have created an export policy and export policy rule and applied that export policy to that volume, so that the server will get access automatically, right? So what you need to do, you need to provide the NFS path to the clients, server team, Linux team, and they'll be able to mount it on their end. For example, they told you that they are getting access denied. They are not able to mount whatever the NFS path you gave to them. Okay, in that kind of situation, what you can do, you have to prove them, right? There is nothing wrong from your end, no issues from your end. So that time this check access command will help you a lot. Okay, so vserver export policy. Okay, vserver name. What is the volume name? For example, vol1. What is the IP address? Here you need to provide the IP address of the server, uh, which on which server they are getting the access denied, or on which server they are not able to mount. Okay, you need to provide that IP address and authentication method also, which type of authentication method they are using. Let's assume that sys, because most of the Linux servers will use sys authentication mechanism only, unless until they configured Kerberos, or they have some requirement to use other authentication method. Okay, and protocol NFS3. Okay, access type, read write. Okay, so if you run this command, it will show you what kind of access that particular server has on top of this volume. If you see here, this is the volume junction path, and this is the policy, and this is the volume name. Okay, and that particular server has read write access. What is the rule? This is the rule index number. Okay, so it will give you all these details. So what you can do, you can just show this output to the server team and tell them that we have configured everything properly, no issues on our end. Okay, for example, let me create another volume. Okay, vol3 size 10 GB, security style Unix, space guarantee, none and all. Let's leave it to default. I have not mentioned any policy here. Okay, let's check. uh, let's run the same command. Now let me check the access for the same server for vol3. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, see, now it is showing that denied. That means that particular server 192.168.0.1.0.61 don't have access to our volume vol3, because we have not applied the export policy to this volume. If you apply the same export policy, then automatically the server will get access. Okay, let me show you that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to apply the same export policy to the volume modify, server name, volume name, hyphen policy. Now let me check. Let me rerun the command again. See, Now it is showing read write. Earlier it was denied, right? Now it is showing read write. So by running this check access command, you can confirm the clients that server team that there is nothing wrong from our end. Okay, there are few more things we need to check, but this is the basic thing. This is the thing. I mean, normally we'll get this access denied and all because we might have entered wrong server IP or some. There are a lot of things we need to consider, but I'm not going to discuss all of them here because we have a dedicated section for only troubleshooting. There we are going to discuss in detail about troubleshooting. Okay. Config checker. Okay, config checker is a kind of a command which will go through our export policy rules, and it will tell us like did we configured everything properly or not. If there are any errors, what it is going to do, it is going to throw us some recommendations, okay, according to Netapp best practices. So config checker that server name, which policy you want to check the configurations. I want to check the policy configurations on top of this policy. Okay. After that, what you need to do, export policy, config checker, show, so that it will show you. So if you check here in the config checker show output, it has gone through this policy. And as we have only one rule, it checked that particular rule, and config checking state is successful. Okay. So if there are any rules that are facing issues, it will throw us the number here. But here, none. We have configured the rule properly, right? Without any issues, we have configured everything according to Netapp best practice. So it is showing 0. Okay. Mostly will not use this command in real time, but yeah, if you want to validate, you can use this command. Next thing is copy. Okay, copy is the command which is very helpful to us if you want to create an export policy. For example, let me tell you. Here, I have only one rule. What if I have an export policy, okay, with 100 rules or 120 rules? Let's assume that. Okay, my requirement is to create another export policy. For example, let's assume that I have created a rule export policy called policy 1. Okay, and I have 120 rules on top of the in this policy. Okay, I have 120 rules in this policy, and I have applied this policy to a volume called vol1. Now I got a requirement from client that out of this 120 servers, he want me to create another volume, and he needs access to that particular volume only 200 servers. But if you use the same policy for the second volume as well, then what will happen? All 120 servers, all the servers in the 120 rules will get access, right? But that is not good, right? Like there are 20 servers which don't need access to this volume. So what we need to do? Again, we need to create another policy, right? So let's assume that I have created another policy, and again I need to create rules, 100 rules, right? Which will take a lot of time, right? Instead of that, what I can do, I can copy the same rules to another policy. Okay. After that, I'll remove the 20 rules which I don't need, which is easiest way, right? When you compare it with creating a 120 rules, deleting 20 rules is the easy way, right? So yeah, so copy command will be helpful to you to copy all the rules in uh, one export policy to another export policy. So copy copy vServer name. So which policy you want to copy? I want to copy this policy. To where? So to which SVM? Is it the same SVM or another SVM? Same SVM. What is the new policy name? I just want to keep it as something like simple copy. So what it is going to do, it is going to create another policy with this name and copy whatever the rules we have in this policy to this policy like that. That is what okay it will do. It will copy the policy rule configurations from here to here. Okay, let's do that. Now vServer export policy show. If you run this command, see I'm able to see the newly created policy and vServer export policy rule show vServer name and my policy name. Here I have not created any policy, I have not created any rules, but whatever the things I have in this policy, I have copied everything to, I have duplicated that. That's it. Next, create, you know that to create the export policy. Delete is again same thing, deleting the export policy. If you don't want one policy, if you want to delete entire policy, then yeah, you need to use this command. I'm deleting that copy policy. So once you delete the policy, the rules inside the policy also will get deleted. So whatever the servers in the rules and the export policy, all of them will lose access to the clients where we have applied this policy, storage where we have applied this policy. Okay. We'll talk about Netgroup a little later. Okay. Next thing is rename. Pretty simple. If you want to change the export policy name, yeah, you can do that. Okay, by using the rename command. Let me change this policy name to policy one, something like that. I think that this will not require any downtime or no impact. Renaming the policy, yeah, those things will not impact anything. Next, rule we have already discussed about it, and show command will display the export policies. What all the export policies we have, everything will be displayed here. Now let's talk about the few more things like which will make our job easy when we are dealing with the NFS and export policy. First one is, for example, my client told me that he need okay 100 GB or 1 TB of storage, okay, to 100 servers. 100 servers. So again, so in order to fulfill this request, what we need to do, we can create one rule where we need to mention all 100 server IP addresses or host names. Okay, that's okay. That is doable. Not we don't need to put much effort. But instead of that, what you can do, if all the servers belongs to same network subnet. Okay, if all the servers belongs to same network subnet, okay, what you can do, instead of adding the individual IP address, okay, instead of adding the individual IP address, you can add, okay, you can add entire subnet so that all 100 servers will get access. But only thing is, whenever we are doing such kind of configurations, we have to make sure that no other servers are part of that particular subnet. Whatever the servers that are configured in the subnet, all of them belongs to that particular client only. We have to make sure that, okay, we have to take a look at that. Okay, for example, let me tell you with an example. Let's assume that My client is having 100 servers, like 192.168.0.3, 192.168.0.4, like that. Okay, like that up to 01. Okay, total 100 servers. Now he need access to all these 100 servers on a particular volume. So what we need to do, we need to add all the servers to the same rule, or you can do that in a client match. You can add all the IPs, or what you can do, you can create a separate rule for each and every server. You can proceed with both ways. Okay, but instead of that, what I'll do, I'll I'll contact my network team. Okay, if I know, I can put the subnet IP address automatically. But if you don't know the subnet IP, what I'll do, I'll contact my network team and I'll get the subnet IP. I know the subnet IP for this. Okay, 192.168.0.0/24. Okay, this is the subnet IP address of this range. Normally, the people who don't have experience or knowledge on networking, you can talk to your network team and get the network subnet IP. Okay, so what you need to do, instead of adding all these servers in the client match, you can just put this address. So whatever the servers in this range, normally IP address range will be 192.168.0.1 to 192.168.0.255. This is the entire range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like that up till 255. So whatever the IPs within this range, all of them will get access if you add this subnet address. Okay, don't worry about these IPs and all. We have a dedicated section for networking. There we'll talk more about these things. Okay, generally you don't need to worry about it. Even client itself will get the subnet address for you if they have this kind of requirement, if you ask him directly. Okay, so let me show you that what I'm going to do. Server export policy rule modify. Okay, policy name, I just want to modify this policy. I want to change the rule index to, so I have added individual IPs, right? 61, 62, like that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the subnet address now, as I told you. Okay, server export policy rule show server name and rule name. See, now I have added the subnet policy. Let's check that our 61 server has still access to volume 1 or not. Okay, because I have applied the same policy on volume 1. Okay, server export policy, you can do that by using check access command, right? Check access server name, volume name, wall1, client IP 192.168.0.61, authentication method sys, protocol NFS3, access type read write. See, still it is showing that this particular server has access to wall1 with read write access. Why? Because I have not added the IP address, individual IP. I have added the entire subnet. Okay, that is the reason. Because of that, till this particular server has access to the volume. Let's check the same thing with 62. We have another Linux server 62, right? Let's check that. See, even our 62 also has access to wall1 because it is also part of the same subnet IP. Okay, IP range. Any questions so far? Zubair, Beulah? Okay. The one thing. Now we'll talk more about the rules. I told you, right? Rule index is not only just a number. Rule index has rule index will play a very important and a crucial role when it comes to NFS. Okay. Now, my client came to me with the same kind of requirement where he need okay access to 100 servers. Okay, he has 100 servers and he need a 1 TB storage to all 100 servers. And luckily, all of them are in same subnet like 192.168.0.2, 192.168.0.3 to 192.168.0.101. Okay, but the problem here is I have two more servers which are in the same subnet, but those two servers they does not belong to my client or they does not belongs to that particular application. We it is it is not good to provide access to that server. Normally, in this kind of situation, what I can do, I can provide the subnet IP address, right? In the rule, whenever I'm creating a rule in a client match, I can use the subnet IP address so that all 100 servers will get access to it. But as I have different servers also in the same subnet, okay, 92.168.0. Let's assume that those two servers are 201. 202. Okay, these are the two servers which I need to avoid from getting access to that particular volume because they does not belong to this application. So they don't need access to that volume. And again, if you avoid this and if you provide access to entire subnet, these two servers also will get access to that volume. And these from these two servers, the other application users or some other clients also will be able to see the data. What if the data is confidential, right? We need to provide the security as well, right? So what I'm going to do, so first I'll create a rule with rule index number 2. Okay, index number 2. Okay, here I'm going to provide access to subnet. I'll provide like a read rate access, read only access, and super user access. Okay. Same way, I'm going to create another rule with the index number 1, and here I'll mention the servers specifically 201, comma 202. Here I'll mention no access, none for everything. That means read write none, read only none, super user none. Okay. So these two servers already part of this subnet, right? So automatically they should get access to the volume. But as I have created another rule and I've mentioned these two server IPs specifically, and I mentioned don't give access, okay, they'll not get access. Even though they are part of the subnet and they are part of the export policy, they'll not get access to the volume because as we have created a separate rule and mentioned not to provide access. And one more thing here, why I have mentioned rule index 1 to this particular rule and rule index 2 to this particular rule, because whatever the rule number with least value get high preference. That means, for example, if I do it oppositely, for example, let's assume that I have mentioned rule index as 2 here and I have mentioned rule index as 1 here, then This is the preferred rule, right? Because it has the lower rule index value. As this is the preferred rule, these two servers also will get access to the volume or whatever it is, storage. Okay, because this rule will dominate the second rule. Okay, that is the reason whenever you have this kind of requirements, you have to consider the rule number also. Rule index will play a very crucial and important role in this kind of situations. As I have mentioned, rule 1, rule index 1 for this particular rule, this will be the preferred rule. As part of this rule, these two servers will not get should not get access to the storage. But as part of this rule, the servers should get access to the storage. So, but as this is a preferred rule, these two servers will not get access to the storage. So my rule 1 will obviously always dominates rule 2, dominate rule 2. Okay, like that. Is it clear or a little confusing, or do you want me to explain one more time?
Clear, Anaya.
Cool. Thank you. Now let's do it practically. Okay. So we have already created a rule, right? Rule and export policy in our RHEL, this particular rule, right? Policy 1 rule. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another rule. And here, if you see here, what is the rule index? Rule index 2. Now let me show you that. vServer export policy rule show vServer name and our rule name. So here I have provided entire subnet. That means all the servers will get access to it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another rule, but this time I'll specify the rule with high preference, which is a 1. So vServer export policy, okay, rule create vServer name, policy name, client match 192.168.0.61. Okay, RO rule none. I don't want to give read write access, and I don't want to give read only and read write access, and I don't want to give super user as well. And what is the rule index here? I'm keeping it as 1. And what is the anonymous and all default? 65534 protocol, NFS 3. Okay, like that. I'm just mentioning all the things. Okay, now see, now I have two rules. One rule is saying that don't provide access to this 61 IP server. And the second rule is saying allow access to all the IPs in the subnet, and 61 is part of it. Now let's check access. vServer export policy, check access, vServer name, volume name, vol1, 192.168.0.61, sys protocol NFS3, access type, read write. Okay, it is getting access, it should get access denied.
Naveen, we have like two, like the previous one, the default one also like rule index one, right? Is it affect that one?
No. See, I've changed it, right? I've changed it to rule index 2. You cannot create same rule index and same export policy. See,
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
now this has a priority.
yeah. First one has a priority. Yeah.
I'm not sure. Sometimes it might work, sometimes it might not work. But or else, let me see. Okay, let's give it a try accessing the storage. Okay. I don't know why it is working, but it should not working. But normally, the server one should not get access to the volume where we have applied this export policy. Let me check that. Maybe we made a mistake, or it might be due to lab issue. In lab, some few things will not work. Okay, let me check and yeah, get back to you on that. But yeah, this is the way you need to do. Like if you have a very huge number of servers, and so what we'll do generally, we'll use the subnet. But after that, if you want to remove particular servers, you need to create a rule with highest priority so that yeah, they'll not get access to it. Or else let me do it a different way. The tool set index change maybe a font or something. Okay, now I have just flipped it. Like I subnet rule I have changed set it to 1, and IP rule I have set it to 2. Earlier it was opposite, right? Now let me check access now. I'm not sure this is not the way. Yeah, maybe lab issue, but this is how you need to do. I'm sure about it. Okay, I'll check that. Okay, but this is the way you need to do. Okay, you understand, right? Like what is the purpose? Just understand it. But in real time, it will work. I've tried. I've done it many times in real time. Okay. Next thing is, yeah. Now we are done with most of the things. Now let's talk about a net group. Net group. I can't show you here. And anyway, most of the people will not use a net group in real time. I've never seen. I didn't get a chance to work on net group, but I'll show you the purpose, like what is net group and why and when we need it. Okay, so and again, it is very complex to configure the net group concept. Okay, for example, again I have a requirement. Okay, where I need to provide access to 200 servers. Okay, on a single storage, like on 1 TB volume something. Okay, but this time these servers belongs to different subnets. Like for example, 20 servers belongs to 192.168.0 subnet, and 10 servers belongs to 192.168 or 10.0 subnet. Okay, 30 servers belongs to 172.16 dot something 0.0 subnet, like that. I have multiple subnets, okay, where the servers are involved in. Now I need to provide access to all 200 servers on the storage, but they belongs to multiple subnets. I don't have all the servers in the same subnet. In this kind of a situation, we cannot use the subnet method, right? See, you can say that, okay, we have only 3 subnets. Why don't we include all the subnets? If you include all the subnets, all the remaining Linux servers also part of these all subnets, which does not belongs to this application. They'll get access to it, right? And finding those Linux servers and again removing the from uh, excluding them by creating another rule is also painful. What if you have thousands of servers which does not belongs to the same subnet, right? It is not a proper way or appropriate way to do it, adding the subnet to the rule, right? So in this kind of situation, this net group will come into picture. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a file, okay, for example a text file, file.txt. There I'll add all 200 server IPs in a proper format. Like there is a format which you need to enter. I mean, there is a proper format which the same way you need to enter all the IPs. Okay, all 200 server IPs. Okay, after that you need to put this server into. Okay, sorry, you need to put this text file into a web server. Okay, web server. A web server will be like either HTTP web server or FTP web server, like that. Okay, every organization will maintain a web server. If you don't know that, like if you don't have access to that, just hand over this file to your Linux or Unix team. Some companies will use Windows web server, some companies will use Linux web server. Okay, just check with both the teams and get the web server details or hand over the file to them, so they'll add the file to web server, so that after adding the web server, you'll be able to access this file by just like a website. How you, if you enter the URL, you'll get a URL, and if you enter the URL in the web browser, you'll be able to access this file. Okay, so after adding this file to the web server, what you need to do, you need to download this file from there. Okay, you need to download this file from there to Netapp. Okay, download the file to Netapp cluster from web server and upload it to Netgroup. Okay, upload it to Netgroup. So whatever the IPs you mentioned in the file document, a file text file, okay, those IP configurations will be uploaded to a Netgroup. Okay, and what you need to do while creating export policy rule, okay, under client match, you need to use the Netgroup name. That's it. You need to, instead of IP address or subnet address, these things, you need to use the net group name. So whatever the IPs in that net group will be involved in that role, and they'll get access to the volume or whatever storage where we are going to apply this policy. Okay, this is the procedure. Okay, first what you need to do, you need to create a text file, and you need to enter all the server details there, and you need to upload the text file to the web server, download the file from the web server, and again upload it to the netgroup configuration in your cluster, Netapp cluster, and use that netgroup name while creating the export policy. Okay, I can't show you, but let me show you how to do that. Yeah, netgroup load. Okay, vServer name, which vServer you want to load. And here you need to paste that link URL. URL will be like this: HTTP server name. You will get a URL. Okay, you need to enter that and hit enter. So what it will do, that particular file, the whatever the IP address is in that file, okay, they'll be loaded to our net group. Okay, net group configuration. Okay, once you run this command, and net group file show, if you run this command, it will show you all the net group configuration. Okay, we can create only one net group per vServer. Okay, so after that, what you need to do while creating export policy rule, okay, rule vServer export policy rule, create vServer name, policy name, and under client match, see it is showing you can mention the net groups as well. What you need to do, whatever the name you are it is displaying here when you run net group file show, you need to put that name here. That's it. Remaining everything just like normal rule creation only. Okay, so this is the process. Actually, if you don't understand, just ignore it. Even they'll not ask you this in interview. Even most of the people don't know that net group concept is there, and even they know, they don't know, most of the people don't know how to do. Okay, how to do it. Yeah, so ignore it. But in case if they ask you in interview, this is the procedure you need to tell them. Okay, and the format, I'll show you. It is little complex. Okay, file example. uh, this is the way you need to install enter the files. It is little complex actually. Okay, so ignore it. Even I have never tried, I didn't get a chance to implement netgroup in my real time. Okay, so better to ignore this. Just remember the procedure, that's it. Okay, next. Now we have gone through the export policy, all the options and export policy rules and everything, right? Now let's discuss few options on NFS, vServer NFS. So connected clients. This is a very, very useful command. So it will show you so it will show you like who, what all Linux servers or what all servers accessing this particular volume. It will show you that. Like see the command vServer NFS connected clients show node name. Here mention all the nodes vServer, and the data lif IPs also just use all the lif IPs. Here if you observe, I just entered the star here. Okay, that means star means, I already told you, right? Star means wildcard entry. Normally till here everything same, right? Only 121 122. So instead of 1 and 2 I mentioned star there. You can put, and you can remove this and you can use star only here. Okay, and just put the volume in. So that what it will do, it will show you what all clients accessing this volume, what all Linux servers accessing this volume. It will show you the information. See now these two Linux servers accessing that particular volume. Now let's check the same with the Vol2. No one is accessing Vol2. Okay, like that it will show you. Very, very useful command. Okay. Yeah, only show is available. as I told you, Kerberos is a authentication. It is a unified authentication which will be supported by both NFS and CIFS protocols. Okay, if you want to implement Kerberos authentication on NFS, yeah, you need to configure it on your NFS vServer level. Then only you can use it. And most of the people will not use Kerberos authentication. They'll use SIS only. But if you want to do that, yeah, this is again not a simple procedure. This is a very lengthy procedure. Okay. Yeah. So and one more thing is you need knowledge how it will work, Kerberos authentication, the deep level knowledge of that. So just ignore that. But yeah, we can do it at vServer level. Okay, you need to configure Kerberos realm. So many things are there. Okay. And if you want to modify your NFS configuration, like for example, earlier I have enabled V4 as well. Now I just want to disable it. For example, I don't want to enable V4.0. I want to disable it. And the same way, I want to disable 4.1 as well. Like that. By using modify option, you can change the options anytime. Whenever you want, you can change the configurations on your NFS using modify. Off, on, nothing. Just if you want to stop the NFS services temporarily, just off is the command so that clients will be not able to access them. See, it hung, like it is not allowing us. Okay. Now if I try to what is that? Both the servers become, I'm not sure. Okay. So if you want to turn it on normal NFS service, yeah, is the command. Then everything will become accessible again. Okay. Just turning on, turning off the NFS service. Next thing is show. Again, it will show you just a normal NFS configurations. Okay, high level. Again, starting, stopping also. Just starting the services and stopping the services. Okay, and next thing is status. What it will do? It will just show you a display command like NFS service is running on top of your SVM. That's it. Nothing much. Okay. But on NFS level, connected client is the most useful and very important command that you need to remember so that you can see what all clients, who all clients accessing your volume. Yeah, we'll come to know. Okay. Any questions, guys?
Yeah, no, Naveen.
Thank you. Now, yeah, we are done with NFS. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cover a small topic called WAFL. Write anywhere, file, layout. So WAFL is Netapp's file system. Okay, WAFL is a Netapp file system. So does anyone know what file system will do? Not only Netapp, every storage vendor will have file system. Not only storage vendor, every operating system needs a file system. Do you know that even our Windows, whatever the Windows operating system we are using in our daily lives also, they'll also have file systems. Have you ever heard of NTFS or FAT32 or FAT64? These file systems, these all belongs to Windows. Okay, so what they will do, what these file systems will do. So normally, I don't know how many of you have used Windows XP. Okay, but whenever you are installing the Windows XP, it will ask you to choose the file system. You have to choose it manually. That time, sorry, not FAS, it is FAT, FAT T, not S. Sorry. Okay. So I don't know how many of you are installed, but yeah, whenever you're installing our older operating systems like Windows XP, those Service Pack 2, Service Pack 3, those operating systems, at that time, it will ask you, do you want any NTFS or do you want a FAT file system like that? But now everything it is taking as NTFS default. Okay. So that is the reason it is not displaying whenever we are installing Windows 7 or Windows 10 latest operating systems. Yeah. But yeah, there is an option. If you go to advanced installation, you can do that. Okay. So what they will do, what actually file system will do. So file system is the one which is responsible for writing the data to the disk. So file system only knows where to put the data in a hard disk and what are the used blocks in your hard disk, what are the free blocks in your hard disk. Okay, only file system will know. Okay, even whenever you are copying something to your hard drive, yeah, file system is responsible for placing the data in your hard disk, where to put and all. Okay, the same way WAFL is a file system for, okay, Netapp. Okay, so what is the difference between WAFL and other storage vendor file systems? Why it is so special? Let's talk about that. Now, what I'm going to do, okay, let's assume this is a third-party vendor. Let's take EMC as example. Normally, all other vendors are using traditional file system only. A traditional file system only. Okay. I'm just going to divide. So this is a Netapp. So just like, let's assume this is a storage pool. In EMC, we used to call it as a storage pool. Okay, we'll call it as storage pool. Let me write it here. In Netapp, we'll call it as aggregate, right? Aggregate. Okay. So let's assume that I have created volumes here. Okay, they'll call it as differently, not volumes. They'll call it as file system. Whatever we are presenting storage on, yeah. Okay, and let's assume that I have created 3 volumes on Netapp. Okay, let's assume that this is FS1, FS2, FS3. Don't get confused between this file system and whatever the actual file system we discussed. Okay, uh, actual file system is a real file system. This whatever these file systems are, these are just for namesake. Normally in Netapp we are calling the logical partitions as volume, right? In EMC they have named it as file system. That's it. Okay, so On the storage pool level, okay, whatever the space, okay, that is there, that will be divided into small logical partitions. Okay, small logical partitions. Hello, are you able to
Yeah,
hear
Naveen.
me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Are you able to see my screen as well?
It was not moving, but we are able to
Yeah,
see the
yeah.
previous one.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
write something on the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was
Are you
moving
able to
now.
see it now? The cursor.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We
The
are able to.
problem. Yeah. Lost power here. Okay. So yeah. So normally in the storage pool itself, everything will be okay divided into small partitions logically. Not only on storage pool level, in Netapp also, on aggregate level, everything will be divided into small logical partitions. Okay, small logical partitions. Now, and let's assume that this is a V1, V2, V3. Okay. So in normally in traditional file system, whenever you created a file system itself, automatically the data will be reserved under it. Okay, automatically the data will be reserved. For example, these blocks will are reserved for FS1. So whenever any data enters into the, whenever you write something to the FS1 logical partition, the data will find the blocks that are reserved for FS1 and it will write the data there only. Okay, but the same way, the blocks, few blocks will be reserved under FS2. So whenever you are writing something to FS2, what it will do, it will come to the storage pool and it will find the blocks reserved for FS2 and it will write the data there only. The same thing with FS3, like that. This is how traditional file system will work. So in traditional file system, whenever you created a logical partition, few blocks will be okay reserved under that file system. So whenever you are writing something to the file system, the logical partition, the data will be written to those reserved blocks only. Okay, this is how traditional file system will work. Even our Windows also will follow traditional file system only. Okay, like it will reserve some blocks for C drive, it will reserve some blocks for D drive, like that. Whenever you are writing to the D drive, it will write the data there only. Okay, now let's talk about WAFL. So whenever you create a logical partition, a volume, WAFL will not reserve anything for volumes. Okay, how it will do, I mean how it will write the data. For example, when my client wrote some data, okay, sorry, wrote some data to wall1, then what it will do, it will write the data to the first available chain. Okay, now my other client wrote some data to wall2, what it will do, it will look for next available chunk and it will write the data there. Now again, one of my client wrote data to wall1, it will look for next available that logical block and it will write the data there, like that. There will be no reserve kind of concept here. What it will do, it will just find a place, free block, and it will write the dump the data there. That's it. That is how the WAFL will work. See, that is the reason we are calling it write anywhere file layout. That means there is no reserve for the volumes which will create in the aggregate level. Okay, blocks, no reserved blocks. What it will do, if it finds the free block in any location, just it will dump the data there. That's it. Write anywhere. Okay. So because of this WAFL file system, because of this technology, WAFL write performance is very fast when you compare it with the traditional file system. Okay, WAFL write speed is very fast. That is the reason when you compare Netapp with any other products, Netapp will give you a very good performance in write requests. Okay, is it clear? Any questions?
Yeah, Navin, can
Okay,
you explain this WAFL one more time?
okay, nothing. Just whenever you write some data to volumes, okay, what it will do, as there is no reserve, what it will do, it just WAFL will scan for the free blocks. If it find a free block during the scan, just immediately it will write the data there, and randomly it found a free block here. Yeah, it will write the data here, like that. It will write the data. It will not look for a particular pattern, or it will not look for a particular result. Okay, whenever wherever it finds the free block, it will write the data there. That's it. Okay,
Yeah,
normally
okay, Navin.
in EMC or as in traditional file system, it has to check what all blocks reserved for this file system, and it has to go there and it has to write the data, right? But in WAFL, what it is doing, it is not looking for any reserved blocks. It is looking for only free blocks. Whenever it find a free block, it will write the data there. Okay, yeah. So in traditional file system, it has to look for the blocks that reserved under file system, right? So it will take some time to find the reserved blocks. Then only it can write the data. Until that, it will hold the data. But finding the free blocks is very easy, right? When you compare it with the finding the reserved blocks. So whenever it finds the free block, it will write the data there. So that is the reason WAFL write speed is very good when you compare it with the traditional file system. Okay. But the same way, when it comes to read, yeah, someone unmuted. Any question?
Yes, actually, it takes the random space to write the data.
I'm not able to hear you, sir. It is
Yeah,
very, yeah.
it is actually when you write the data,
Hmm?
it will take a random block, as you said actually.
Yeah, randomly. It will write the data randomly across all the blocks. Wherever it finds the, not randomly, it you can say that available, next available. Wherever it finds the block, free block, it will write the data there. Yeah, there is no particular pattern or no particular reserve, something like that. Just
Okay,
wherever it finds the block, free block, it will write the data there. Yeah.
yeah, but to retrieve the data, it might take some time. Yeah, actually, to
Can
retrieve the
someone hear the question clearly? I'm not able to hear it. Finding difficulty.
Oh, Navin,
retrieve.
like we are able to get some kind of air sound or like that, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It is not clear, sir. Your question.
Oh,
Not able to hear it.
not able to hear me now?
I mean, I'm able to hear you, but not clear. Not at all clear.
Yeah, we
Oh,
are getting some kind of disturbance from your end, Zubir.
okay.
Some kind of air sound or like that. We don't know exactly what's happening back end.
Maybe some echoing sound is actually.
Okay, just give me a call after this class. Okay,
Okay, nice.
I'll explain you. Okay. Okay. So yeah, write speed is very high in WAFL when you compare it with the traditional file system. But what about a read request? When it comes to read request, for example, my client want to read some file in the FS1. So what it will do in the back end, it will go to it. It has to only look for the data in the reserved blocks, right? So it knows what all blocks are reserved under that file system. It will go there and it will fetch the data. Pretty simple. But when it comes to Netapp, WAFL has spread your data across entire aggregate, right? Now, if it has to search for some data, it has to go through all the blocks because there is no reserve concept here. That is the reason read speed is I mean, not that good when you compare it with other products because of this WAFL mechanism only. Again, we have a disadvantages and advantages with WAFL. That is the reason, okay, Netapp made PAM as a mandatory component. We have discussed about a PAM, right? Performance acceleration module, when we discussed about the architecture of controller. So they made it mandatory because to improve the read performance. Like whatever the read performance degradation we are getting through WAFL, they just want to cover it with a PAM. So what PAM will do? PAM will maintain the indexing, right? Where it stored the data, which block, which disk, which shelf, like that indexing it will maintain, right? Yeah, that is the reason. Okay. This is the how the WAFL will work. WAFL, yeah, it will play a very important role in the backend. And one more thing is 10% of your aggregate capacity, okay, will be reserved under WAFL. Okay, 10% of your aggregate capacity will be reserved under WAFL. For example, that means let's assume that I have created an aggregate with 100 GB. Let's assume that my total aggregate size is 100 GB. Out of that, 10% means 10 GB will be reserved under WAFL. So only 90 GB will aggregate will be created. Only with 90 GB aggregate will be created, and 90 GB will be the available space. Okay. For example, if I created aggregate with 400 GB, out of the 10%, 40 GB will be reserved under WAFL. Remaining whatever 360 GB will be your aggregate size. Okay, automatically 10%, whatever your aggregate size, it doesn't matter. 10% will be reserved under WAFL. So what WAFL will do? WAFL will maintain metadata of your aggregate in that 10% reserve. Okay, metadata means nothing but a configuration data related to your aggregate and the data you are hosting on top of that aggregate. Okay, that we'll call it as metadata. Yeah, and WAFL configurations, everything will be stored there in that 10% reserve. Any questions? In lab also, you'll be able to see that. Let me check. Can see it or not. I think here it will display WAFL reserve somewhere. Is you are getting, whatever the size you are getting, like 281 GB, right? This is after reserving 10% to WAFL. That means this 280 GB is the full available to you. Okay, already WAFL reserved some 10% of space out of it already. Okay, whatever you are getting, the 280 GB here in this aggregate, that is after WAFL reserve. Okay, that is entirely for you to store the data. I'll get the command to find the WAFL size. Think somewhere. Yeah, I'll tell you. Okay. Any questions on WAFL, NFS, export policy? Yeah, we are done with NAS today. Tomorrow we are going to start a concept called snapshots, which is very important. Don't miss tomorrow's class. Okay, very important. Snapshot is a very important concept which you need to understand very clearly. It is very easy concept only, and there are a lot of topics which are coming to us in future. Okay, also will be, yeah, depends on the snapshot mechanism. Okay, yeah, thank you. Have a nice day, guys. If you don't have any questions, yeah, I'll stop the session today.
Yeah, thank you.